is to representative for the
she's holding up wide, that's why my shirt is off. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you to rise, that we would have a moment of silence before we begin, and can we please, as we do so, remember our men and women who serve us across our state, across our nation, around the world, and then we will pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Diane. I have the honor and privilege of serving you as Arizona's Superintendent of Public Instruction. Joining me this evening on the stage is your representative from LD1, Will Campbell. If you'd like to say a few words, we'd be glad to have you.
Thank you, Diane. Well, it's good to see you guys. I'm sure you've got a lot of questions, and we're certainly happy to be here to listen to your concerns. I am the elected representative. If you folks want to talk to me about the Capitol, send me an email. And if you put a phone number to it, I will call you back. We get so many form emails down there that when you get over 300 a day, it's hard to wade through them all. But if there's a phone number attached with anything, I will call you back. You may not be happy with what I say, but I will call you back. I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad to be your elected representative. I'll do the best job I can do for the district, and that's all I can do. So once again, thank you very much.
Also joining me up here is Mrs. Lila Williams, and she is our Associate Superintendent of primarily assessment and accountability at the department. So, right.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for coming out. It's always a pleasure to come to Prescott and to visit and present and so forth. But I'm looking forward to hearing all the comments and points and areas of interest and concern. I think it helps us to continue to look at what we need to do as far as improving what's going on in Arizona related to education, and to also ensure that we as associates are able to implement all the goals and visions that Superintendent Douglas has in mind. So thank you again, and I'm looking forward to hearing all your comments.
For those of you who may have followed the campaign for superintendent, you may be aware that I am not a fan of what we now refer to as Arizona College and Career Ready standards, but are in fact the Common Core standards. But I made no bones about it, even as I was running for election and even now. I do know the authority of my office, which is I do not have the ability in and of myself to remove Common Core. That either comes from the legislature or it comes from the State Board of Ed. What I can do is hold the public hearings that were never held when we made this very radical change to our education system. And that's what's coming out here to Prescott is all about. And we've been to, I think this is our 12th stop around the state. We have 2 more. This is a 2-part tour. I'll talk about that in just a minute. This is about being able to give feedback to our legislature, our legislators, and to our State Board of Ed as we listen to the people. This is not about politics. This is not about campaigns, past, present, or future. It's about bringing everyone to the table to discuss how we move forward as a state in the best interests of our children. The only rules for tonight is that the subjects to be discussed are K-12 education. It can be anything in K-12 range, it can be the standards, it can be curriculum, it can be funding, whatever it is you'd like to make comment on. And then after we've made all the stops, again, we will come back out in September, October, and bring back to you the feedback and what we think we're able to do with all the information that's been provided to us all across the state. Few other things. If you want to speak, you were able to sign in the beginning and then fill out a card. If you're not particularly interested in speaking, but you want to give the feedback, you can fill out the forms that we gave you. Up here early on, we'll flash this, how to get a hold of us by email and give us your feedback if that's your preference for doing that. All questions this evening will be deemed rhetorical. So we are more interested, I don't want to say more interested in, we're listening for comments, but if you put it in the form of the question, if it's something that can be answered very short and simply, we'll post an answer on the website. Quite frankly, I don't think we've had any questions that were very simple and easy, just here's the date or here's the time or whatever type of questions. They've all been very complex issues that have been brought to us, and so I'm very pleased with that. I think that's, oh, thank you. We do want to recognize if there are any other elected officials, if there's any school board members in the audience, would you please stand up and be recognized? Do I have any city council? Not tonight. County elected officials, either superintendent or supervisors? Okay, any other elected officials, judges, anybody? If you're an elected official, please stand up. We want to thank you all for your service. We know that everybody, regardless of how we may view different issues, puts their heart and souls into the offices that they're entrusted with. So we thank you for being here tonight. With that, I think we are ready to start.
All right, thank you everyone again for being here. My name is Charles Tack. I'm also with the Department of Education, and I'm going to be helping moderate and making sure we try to get through all of the folks who would like to speak tonight. If you decide at some point during the program that you'd like to speak, just take your little index card and you can wave it in your seat. And Leah Landrum-Taylor, one of our associate superintendents, is in the back. She's wearing the bright green jacket and she will come grab that from you and so that we can put you in the queue to speak. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, so the superintendent wanted to make sure everyone's aware. We don't have a specific time limit that we're putting on speakers. We don't want you to feel rushed. We do ask that you be respectful of everyone's time. We want to make sure that everyone who'd like to speak has a chance to speak. So we may motion if we get beyond the 5 or so minute mark, and we've got a lot of names left to call. We may just let you know that we'd like to keep things moving, but please otherwise feel free to share your thoughts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out names in groups of 5, and then once I've called your name, if you'd like to come down to this front row so that we can streamline the process, that would be great. So I'm going to go ahead and call our first 5 names. The first name I have is Michael Elligood. I have Stephen Stolmack, Cecilia Jernigan, Scott Farnsworth, and Joanne Clark are our first 5. So Michael, if you'd like to get us started. And if you could please state your name when you approach the podium to speak, that would be great. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Elligood. Superintendent Douglas, I want to thank you for taking the time being here this evening. I know it's a personal stretch for any of us to come out, and particularly for you to come up from Phoenix and spend your time. We appreciate it. Thank you. And Representative Campbell, thank you for representing us so well. And trust me, he does return phone calls. I am the state lead volunteer for an organization known as Adopt a Classroom. It allows an individual to donate money directly to a school classroom. Now, my remarks this evening do not reflect the position of Adopt a Classroom, but these are simply observations that I've obtained as I've worked with literally hundreds of teachers, parents, and concerned citizens from across our state, particularly here in the Prescott area. There are three issues I'd like to address. The first issue, which is the elephant in the room, is funding, simply school funding. The need for adequate funding for K-12 and higher education has been well stated, well understood, and well publicized here in the state. We know we're 50th in the nation in terms of school funding. We know that our teachers are among the lowest paid. As Secretary of Public Instruction, we expect you to use your bully pulpit and your access to the governor and the legislature to increase funding for our schools. We're last in the nation for public school funding is well known. It's impacted our economic growth, stifled our hiring of professional skills and expertise that we need for our economic expansion. For example, Superintendent, I met the other day with a representative from our local medical center. I asked the question, do you have trouble getting doctors? And the answer was yes. And one of the reasons was they can't be assured that their children can be educated well in our community. The recent announcement of the governor of increasing funding by $300 per student is simply too little, too late. We need something more substantial. We need more quickly than that. Teachers take about $1,000 a year out of their own pocket to support their classrooms. This is money that is not available to buy needed classroom supplies, including in some cases textbooks. This is unconscionable. Our class sizes here in the Prescott area have increased simply because of lack of funding. They've increased beyond what are typically accepted norms. Our teachers' pay is among the lowest in the country. And as I mentioned earlier, for the privilege of being among the lowest paid, they could take money out of their own pocket to support their classroom. I see that every day in my Adopt a Classroom work. The second issue I'd like to talk about is high-stakes testing. I've been told that the emphasis on testing and test results and as being the measure means that our teachers are forced to teach to the test. Our students go from one high-stakes test to a preparatory test to another test to another test. I think we need to rethink this. Whether it's connected with Common Core or not is beside the point. There's just simply too much of that and too much of an emphasis on that. The third issue I'd like to discuss is transparency and accountability for privately owned charter schools. Our charter schools, funded in large part with taxpayer dollars, either directly or indirectly, do not have to comply with generally accepted practice for accounting for public dollars. Neither the Auditor General nor the Department of Education has oversight of charter schools. This creates a fiscal opaqueness about their profit margins, their salaries, the dollars that they actually spend in the classrooms. Other accountability measures that will allow the Arizona taxpayer, you and I and every one of us, to know where this money is going. We recommend that the State Auditor General perform an annual audit of each charter school similar to the audit of each public school district, so we can really know where our dollars are going. Madam Superintendent, I am by profession a civil engineer. I was a consulting engineer for many, many years, building mostly public infrastructure. When I did a public contract with the Arizona DOT or Maricopa County or any one of the numerous cities, counties, and towns that I worked for as a private consultant, I expected an audit. My funds were audited. How my money was spent was determined. How I paid my people was public knowledge. We expect the same accountability for the public knowledge put into private schools here. That concludes my comments. Again, I appreciate y'all being here, and come on back. It's hot in Phoenix.
All right, Stephen, I think is next.
Thank you very much, Madam Superintendent, for allowing me to take some time to make a few comments. I'd like to support what Michael had to say, previous speaker, about the tests, mostly, and then I would like to make at the end another point about being able to find out information from the Department of Education about what's happening to children in the case of schools being closed. Okay, let me say that I totally...
Your name?
My name is Stephen Solmack. I'm a private consultant. Mostly I'm retired, although I have worked in the last 2 or 3 years to get a handle on what's happening in education around the world and around the country. It turns out that about 23 other countries around the world are implementing the same kind of test evaluation system for their teachers. And it raises the questions about why are they all following all the same procedures, and about are these procedures really for dumbing down our children and being able to control them better. This is a great fear of the world getting over 8 billion people and not being able to control them. But I diverge a little bit. Let me say that I'm totally opposed to the tests, especially those that are designed by Pearson or any other independent for-profit group that are being used to evaluate teachers. Testing has very little to do with developing information that a teacher can use to determine how well it is absorbing what he or she has been teaching. In fact, teachers do not get the results back until the child has passed on to the next grade. And children never get feedback on what they got right or wrong. So these are different from normal tests that we think that teachers would give their children to evaluate their progress and to help them. Test scores are also highly variable. They're influenced by many exogenous factors. Did the child have a bed to sleep in the night before? Did they have breakfast? Was there a fight going on between the parents? And have their parents actually been active in trying to help them read and whatsoever? Do the parents actually have time for that? So they take these highly variable test scores from the state test and put them into some statistical procedure called VAM, value-added methodology. And that particular to come out with the evaluation of the teacher. So they're taking scores that children in this teacher's class had from the last couple of years and comparing them with the scores on a test which is slightly different. We don't know how the tests are modified from year to year. But the procedure is to take the average scores from these children in previous years when they were being taught by other teachers and compare them with the scores that the same children are getting in this teacher's class. And the results are used to say whether the teacher is doing a good job or not. It's all highly reliable. All this information is in the literature. It's very common for a teacher who's evaluated as the best, the next year being evaluated as the worst. There's no correlation at all in terms of how the teachers were evaluated by their students and their system in terms of the teacher of the year kind of thing. You had teachers of the year coming out rated very poorly. So there's no reliability in this. We're putting our feet firmly on a sinking, rotating procedure that we don't understand. And we're for some reason, like a religious reason or something, we're using the results. Okay, so we have this whole highly unreliable test data being used by this VAM procedure. Supposedly out comes an accountability measure that is very questionable in terms of its merit for use in measuring accountability of students. Okay, I'd like to make one point here about this, and that is that if we're told and are made to believe that this testing procedure is valuable for evaluating teachers, then I would suggest that we might use it for parents who are, say, comparing going to one charter school as opposed to another. If this VAM procedure is valuable for evaluating teachers, why would it not be valuable for comparing schools? So what I've got to say is, take this test and market it to parents who are crying for more choice. My feeling is that the only choices valid for public schools are choices that involve how to make them better and more public or more acceptable to the students. And my feeling is that public schools are a public service. They have been very influential in our growth as a country. They've been a service to the community. If people want choice and want to pay for choice, fine. But public money should not be used to support people who want choice. Okay? Public money should not go certainly to private schools, private religious schools, and I also don't think they should go to charter schools, because charter schools have different policies. They reject children with special needs, or they throw them out of school if they don't do well in certain areas. They get the creme de la creme as much as possible, and they still don't look good when compared to public schools around the country. With that, I'd like to mention one other thing. Another point is, this concerns my general feeling in a way about how approachable the department has been to people who want to get information about what's going on. I tried to do an investigation of a particular issue when I lived in the Valley a couple of years ago, and that was, I was very concerned with what happened to the kids in these schools that were closed. Now, to compare what's happened here compared to, say, like Chicago, where there was an announcement that 50 schools were being closed, I haven't seen any kind of announcement like that come from this department, even though schools have been closed. So I started a study, and I went through public relations, trying to get the data, and finally I got some data. And the only data they could produce was a spreadsheet or a computer output sheet that showed the name of the school and the population for this year, next year, and whatever. Well, there were schools in there that had pretty much constant population of students over the years. There were other schools that went from having 1,000 down to having a few hundred, down to having 3 or 4 or a dozen. My point is, why were those schools being carried on the books? They should be listed as schools that were closed, and the media should have been given notice of this, and there should have been room for public counting, a question in accounting. But counting them on the rolls as still being a school when they're really not. I mean, you go to these places, these addresses where these schools are supposed to be, you're not going to find 1,000 students going to classes. Who knows where those students have gone? So there needs to be more reporting and more public accountability for what's going on within the department. Thank you very much.
Cecilia?
Good afternoon. My name is Cecilia Jernigan, and I have been a resident of Arizona now for 30 years. I spent 10 years in the Valley, and I've been up in Prescott now for 20 years. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. Diane, I was the one that stopped you and said, we need to get a selfie and we need to get this on Facebook. And so I did take a picture and I said, let's get behind education in Arizona. This is not a red or a blue issue. It's red, white, and blue for our children and for our grandchildren. One of the things that I wanted to talk with you about is that the 30 years that I have spent in Arizona, I have spent in the hotel industry. I have worked for Hilton, Holiday Inn, Marriott, Carlson Hotels. We have brand standards. If you go to a Hilton or to a Marriott, the reason they're consistent is because we have those brand standards. 10 of the years that I lived here in Prescott, I flew around the country teaching, coaching, and training all of the owners of these hotels, we called them franchisees, how to deliver and implement those brand standards every single day to every single guest. 2 years ago, Marriott has rolled out a program to help save art in our schools through the Spring Hill Suites brand. That's when I got involved in education in Prescott. I had to go find a school that had over 60% free lunch program in order to implement this Marriott program to help save art. I did find a school in Prescott. Their school lunch program was over 80%, their free lunch. And what we did is we raised money to help their art program. When I went and talked to the art teacher and the principal, they told me their budget was $50. I come from the corporate world. I said, $50 a student? $50 a month? And you know what they told me? $50 a year for art supplies. I was just flabbergasted. I thought, how can this be? We've got millions and millions of dollars, and we're giving these poor students and teachers $50. So I have been working with the Prescott Unified School District. I don't know if you know, we have an amazing new superintendent of schools, Joe Howard. Is he here? I hope he's here. And also we have an amazing president of our school board, and her name is Dr. Maureen Erickson, and I believe she's on her way on vacation. Is Maureen here? Oh, she is on vacation. They have a program that they have been working on called Partners in Education. Now understand, I'm from the business world. Hotels make money. That's how they stay in business. Now, I'm not going to say that this program is going to make a huge amount of money, but it will make money. It will be self-funding, and it's called PIE, P-I-E, Partners in Education. We got a way to do it. We want to be the first pilot program in Prescott to roll it out, show you how the schools can make money with a program, with the business community, the nonprofit community, the churches, government. PIE is the answer of reinventing our schools so that we've got money in each and every community. So we would like to ask you if you can help us support this program. Let us be the beta test up here in Prescott. Once we show you how it works, then you can say it was your idea, and let's roll it out in all of the other cities in Arizona. So please, if you can't remember cake, remember PIE. Thank you.
My name is Scott Farnsworth. I'm a parent of 2 Prescott High students. And so I'm kind of here as a parent, but I'm also have 28 years in the community college here in the area. So I'm also here as an educator. I'm sure I don't need to remind you that education is a continuum. You know, students build and expand on what they learned the previous year. And it starts in kindergarten, it goes through elementary school, into middle school, high school, and I'm here with some observations on what happens when they get to college. I also probably don't need to remind us that, you know, education is an investment in the future. When I retire sometime, who's going to be my doctor? Who's going to be my lawyer, my banker? You know, it's the kids that are in school right now. As an employer, looking at Arizona to either come here, who are they going to employ? What does that workforce look like? Are they educated? Are they bright? Are they talented individuals? Or am I going to have to import people from out of state because the education system doesn't provide those folks? Or as an employer, do I say, well, I'm not going to come to Arizona because they don't have the workforce that I need for my employers or for my employment? My observations of, as I indicated, 25 plus years in community colleges, we get students from all over the state that come to Yavapai College here. And in order for them to start their college education, we put them through placement tests. And they may think, hey, I came out of Tucson High School with a B average, or Sahuarita, or Flagstaff, or, you know, I can go on and name a bunch of high schools, you know, and I think I'm ready. And then we put them through the placement tests, and they're in remedium. You know, even though they graduated and they're able to move on, they weren't prepared for college level work. We know that a well-educated individual earns more money and pays more taxes than an undereducated person does. So the more we can educate, the better we can educate. We're just, again, investing in our future. And so my suggestion or recommendation or observation is this, is there some way, because I've talked to superintendents, I've talked to principals and said, hey, how well do your kids do at the next level? Well, we don't track that. We track graduation, we track or keep track of dropouts, but once they leave our school, we don't know how well they do. We don't know if they get a job. We don't know if they're an A student or B student at the university or the college level. And so we have students that say, great, I left high school with my diploma, and yet they're underprepared for college level work. So in my world, we're having to spend an extra semester or 2 semesters. The students are paying tuition, they're getting student loans to pay for work and remediation that they should have been prepared for earlier in their college or in their educational career. Again, one of the situations we've seen is a B student in Prescott High the same as a B student from Yuma High, or the same B student from Page High School? Is there a way to keep track and know that the quality across the state is the same? One of the things that we talk about in higher ed is academic standards and academic integrity. I had a science teacher that approached me at the end of this semester, and it had a student that came up to her and said, I'd like my bump. And the teacher was confused and said, what are you talking about, a bump? And they said, well, in my high school class, in my high school, I could go up to the teacher and ask for a bump, and they would bump me 1 grade. And so I'm here asking for my bump. And our instructor had to say, I'm sorry, at college, we don't do that. So there's something going on at the high school level that is under-preparing some of our students, some of the students. We have great, bright, talented students as well. My last comment is this, is when performance is measured, performance improves. I have another engagement, so don't take it the wrong way, but I'm going to excuse myself later. Thank you.
And before Joanne gets started, I wanted to go ahead and call out our next 5 names. I have Dwight Yeager, Stan Gibb, I believe it's Shirley Waller-Dewey, Pam Markart, and Richard McPherson will be our next 5 if you'd like to join us in the front row. And Joanne, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, and Superintendent Douglas, I too would like to thank you for coming, and also your colleagues for taking the time to come to our fair city. I have a couple of things I would like to speak on. My name is Joanne Clark. I am a native Arizonan and have lived in Yavapai County all but 3 years of my life. I would like to see our public schools, starting in high school, to provide more technical training for our students, those who will not probably ever go on to college, and many of them who have no desire at all to go on to college. I have 2 daughters who work in the highway construction, and they've received training and are journeyman carpenters. I'm a teacher with 22 years of experience and a master's degree, and they make twice as much money as I do. So I don't think everyone needs to have a college education to succeed in life. In Europe, they have done this for decades, where they, starting in what would be equivalent to our junior high level, they begin to test children, and they send them out in 2 different tracks, to be professionals or to work in the technical field and continue to work until they become masters at whatever their trade is. And their pay is equivalent to, when they reach the highest they can to be a master at what their technical occupation is. They receive the same kind of pay as those who are lawyers or doctors. But also a big difference in the reason they're so successful is that in their cultures, people who are technical folks who become masters at what they do receive the same clout as professionals do, which is not true in our country. So I could see that that would be a long-term change that we need to try to put together. The other reason I wanted to speak was I support you in your desire to drop Common Core. I think there are many things in Common Core that are good, but there are things that aren't as well. We as teachers need to have guidelines. We need to have some scope and sequence to know what we're going to do, what we're required to do at different levels, grade levels, and so forth. But most people here probably remember and know that there was not a federal Department of Education until Jimmy Carter's administration. Before that time, we followed the guidelines of the Constitution, which said the federal government has nothing to do with education, but the responsibility belongs to the individual states, and below them are the governing boards of each school. So I know many teachers who feel that they are slighted because of all the pressure that's put on Common Core and on testing, that we need to be micromanaged to make sure we do what's right. Most every teacher I've ever worked with and I've ever known, and there are a number of teachers in my own family and extended family, that we work very hard. We work harder than we're asked to by our administration. I spend at least 8 to 9 hours every day at school working and trying to prepare and make sure, because I love what I'm doing. And I have always taught above and beyond whatever guidelines I was given. And I was successful with most of my students in doing that. I think most people recognize in the past few years, no, I might say decades, that we've noticed that many of those who serve in the federal government are entangled in unethical dealings. We could say that they oftentimes also are covert in their dealings, and we don't know what they're up to until after the fact, and then we're surprised and usually not pleased. I think we can say that they are definitely not transparent, that they are, at least the best we can say probably is that they're cloudy in their dealings. For the life of me, I can't understand why any parent would think that people like that, who are so far away, whose power structure is so far away from us, we have no real ability to control or to have input in what the federal government does, and that they're allowing these people to make the decisions for our state schools and our local schools. I think that I know that there are teachers who are not good, who make serious mistakes, who probably mislead and misteach their students, but I think that can be dealt with by whoever the administration is in their individual schools. I think most teachers don't need to have the pressure of a federal system on their backs at all times, because most of us are dedicated, we love what we're doing, we're well trained, and our students reflect that. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Diane. First of all, I'd like to second the comments that were just made. I think they were pretty much right on. I have a PhD, have worked for 50 years in the technical industry, in government, in industry, and GOCOs, government employee contractor operated, government owned contractor operated. And I've sat on the board down at New Mexico State University for more than 20 years. And I've watched the incoming capability of students decline over time. Now, in the early part of the century, we had the best education system in the world. I think everybody really agrees with that. And as was stated in the early 70s, Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education and has gone down ever since that time. And it has gone down to the point where now, at least at New Mexico State University, a third of the incoming engineering students need remedial math just to get up to speed to start their classwork. And I could go into that quite a bit, I won't here. What I wanted to do is to kind of make 3 points relative to Common Core. Number one, Common Core is really the last extension of what started in the early 70s. So we can't think of that as a one-time thing. What we really need is what the previous speaker said, was to get the major government out of it. So with that, I'd like to make 3 points. Number one, it's not needed. We as parents went through K through 12 and were successful at it. The teachers went through K through 12. They went on to college to learn how to teach it. It is not that complicated. They're the ones in the best position to judge what each kid needs, and without any oversight from anybody else, they'll do their job. And if they're not, then the parents through the school boards and the PTA can correct that problem. So there's point number one, there's no reason for it. Point number two is the funding. Now, Arizona gets 66 cents on a dollar. If we send a dollar to Washington, take some of all of our taxes that we send, and we take a look at what comes back at 66 cents. So as one would expect, there's an overhead for keeping the federal government going. If we want $100 million for Common Core, we're going to give the federal government the authorization to tax us for $150 million to pay for all of that. The Common Core, the $100 million they're going to give us plus their overhead. And so I'd rather see that extra money stay in Arizona. The quicker we can get out of it, the better. The third point I'd like to make is the control. Now, people are going more and more to charter schools and private schools. I have grandkids who are doing that at the moment, because when my kids are paying for our grandkids' education, they expect responsiveness from the schools. When somebody else is paying for it, they don't. That creates a one-to-one dialogue between the teachers and the students on what they want. That is lost, when we are doing the public schools. And I would like to just make one point, though, relative to one of the earlier speakers, and that has to do with the funding for the charter schools and private schools. I personally think that's just fine. I don't see a reason why parents should have to pay twice if they choose to put their kids in an education system other than private schools. They have to pay the tax to support them, and then they have to turn around and pay it again on the private schools, and I think that's unfair. So personally, I think that system that Arizona has is working fairly well. Thank you.
My name is Stan Gibb. I am a retired professor from a Southern California university. I've lived here for about 5 or some odd years. I haven't been keeping track of that. But when I first started to teach in the mid-1970s, I was spending 90% of my time and energy teaching, preparing for lessons, preparing tests, grading tests, 10% on what the administration wanted me to do. When I retired in the mid-2000s, I was spending at least half of my time doing paperwork that had nothing to do with what I was going to be doing in the classroom. Now, I thought that was probably something that had to do just with the California University state system. But when I read this book, and I don't know if you've read it, if you haven't, I hope you do, I Will Not Resign, by Lori Britt, one of the teachers here down in Phoenix. She actually did resign. But she describes clearly what my experience was in California. That the work that was expected of her coming from the politicians and the administration was overwhelming, taking away from your possible time to prepare for classwork and to actually teach. So my comments, I agree with what has been said, especially the last two speakers, that I'm not only against Common Core, getting Common Core out of the schools, I'm against getting the federal government out of the schools here in Arizona. Now let me tell you why. Because since Jimmy Carter, every president that has been elected has felt that he's had to come with some kind of a new game for education. And what has that meant for the teachers? What has that meant for the administrators? They've all of a sudden, every 4 years or every 8 years, depending on how long the guy lasts, have got a whole new curriculum they got to deal with. They've got to reinvent the wheel. And so some dang politician can say, I've got a legacy. I disagree with that. We need to get the federal government completely out of education in this state and get it back in the hands of our teachers and our administrators. And of course, what's going to happen is the federal government is going to say, oh no, if you do that, we're going to take your money away from you. I think if we can get an analysis of the situation, if we don't have to follow all those rules and regulations that the federal government makes us do, we actually might be making money by getting out from underneath that. My understanding of Common Core was that they held the carrot of finances to get us to sign on to Common Core. But the truth is, just like everything the federal government does, they get the states, they sucker the states into these things with a few $1 million. But then after it's started, the states have to keep the thing going. And they're paying the bill from then on. So that's what I have to say. Get this state, or get the federal government out of this state in education. And it will improve. Because like has already been said, education, I think, was doing pretty fine until the federal government had a Department of Education. And it has been slowly going downhill. And it's going to continue to be that way in every state that continues to allow the federal government to control and micromanage their education. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Waller. In 1946, I started first grade, and my school district happened to be one that was going to experiment. They quit teaching phonics. We were a look-see sage class. Now, I have fought this for years and years and years. It's a tremendous handicap. I would like to see a copy of the contract that the state signed with the Common Core group. I would also like to know if, in fact, every state signs the same contract. And I would like to know what determines what happens in a classroom during the day. Some of the most imaginative, innovative people I know are teachers. And if they have an idea to do something with their students for the last half hour, is Common Core going to say, no, this is allocated to reading. That's the only thing you can do. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. If I get the contract, I may not be able to figure this out, but that's what I'm after. Can I do that? Now, the other thing, I think the schools should recognize the difference in the social contact they have today. Our communities are really made up of the social culture, the schools, and the parents. Parents have changed tremendously. The social issues have changed tremendously. And unfortunately, the schools have changed. From teaching, helping each child grow to its full potential, we give them an award no matter what they do. Very seldom do you hear of a child failing. If a child fails, someone should be looking at that situation. There's a reason. Now, if the child doesn't belong in the regular schoolroom, okay, let's look at it and solve that problem. We used to have PTA or mothers groups. I am nosy, so I ask people what they're doing. And very few schools really have PTA groups anymore. Now, how they make a contact with home, I don't know. But I talked to a young guy who was about this tall, and he's over at Coyote Springs. And he says, oh, we have the best old people at our school. Come to find out, that school is smart enough. And you have all kinds of retirees here to call on. But they have a couple of old retired people who go in and talk to the students. Some of the students are more interested in math, history, whatever. And I think that the school is ignoring a large group of potential helpers. I don't know how you're going to get us away from the bridge table or off the golf course, but the schools need another voice these days. Someone who can listen to the child, who can relate to what's happening. I mean, we've been through it. Some of us successful and some of us not so successful. But I would like to see more public meetings on what the school is doing in an individual setting. Like, what is that? We're Dewey Humboldt. And I stopped by the school to talk to them for a few minutes, and I think they're a C grade school. And personally, I feel sorry for these children. I was working, and in fact, I was in a VOTEC program in the 70s. And I saw the children, the students with my daughters going to high school. These kids, they would talk to go out and party, but they shouldn't know how to apply themselves to what was happening in the real world. And you try to explain that to parents, and it's really difficult. So I think that if we get a little more back and forth, whether it takes politics or whatever, the person who really can tell us is that teacher. And I think we need to recognize an effective teacher. And if a teacher can't hack it, I'm sorry, but our children's future is too important to keep someone in that classroom who is not doing a good job. We have a problem, but I would like to see a copy of the contract, please.
Hello, my name is Pam Marquardt, and I'm a professional here in Prescott. And it just so happens the last 2 days, my sister-in-law came in from Washington, D.C., and she's looking to move here. She's on a military retirement, and so they can move here and live without really getting a job. Isn't that awesome? It's like, wow, right? Great. So I know that a lot of people in Prescott are living like that way. They come here to retire, to live the good life, to pay the low state taxes on their homes. And so guess what? My 4 kids sit in classrooms that have no windows. Half the time the books are tattered and having problems. It's not the teachers, it's not the administration. We need money to fix up this building. Guess why? Because when good people come to your town and you want them to stay, good teachers, administrators, they want to walk into a nice building. This is our best building in this entire high school. Look around, people. Is this not beautiful? Now, animals, go tour that high school and tell me why you are not paying for taxes in this town. It's disgusting. We want doctors to come here. We want professionals to invest in us, our bodies. We want the best orthopedic spine surgeons. We want people to say, hey, I love Prescott. I want the standard of living. But guess what? My kids now have to suffer in these buildings, in these schools. And you cannot blame it on the school district. You can't blame it on the professionals that work here. We have to take responsibility as the adults that are getting these awesome prices. My sister-in-law could not believe the prices we pay on state tax here, people. I mean, in Washington State, where I moved from 5 years ago, my house of $500,000 cost me $7,000. $7,000. You know what it is here? $2,500. Come on, that is pitiful, people. And we cannot pass a bond. The last thing that I'm going to say is about these charter schools. Now, when I was raising I have two groups of kids. They're all mine, the same husband, same wife. Okay? Well, we call them the bigs, we call them the littles. Now, the bigs, I wanted them in the nice little private school so they could, charter school. So they could put on their uniform and, well, that makes a good student. Because she has a uniform on and, you know, that makes, and you know, we're preppy over here and we got it going on. You know, the best kids in town go to this school. This town has 40,000 people. Do you understand? We don't have a whole bunch of crime. We don't have a bunch of thugs living in this town. Give me a break on the charter school. Count how many charter schools we have in this town. It's pitiful. Do you know they get $7,000 for each student? And go out to public school gets $5,000. Why is that? So we can make the rich people in this town, and I'm rich. Okay, I am rich. I am not saying I'm poor. I'm getting ready to buy a $700,000 house. I am rich. Okay, I get it. But are we saying that we can't pay a $300 or $500 more a year to increase and improve the school? So our doctors, our physicians, our spine doctor just had to leave town. So if you got a car accident and you have a spine problem, guess what? How many spine doctors do you know in Prescott? Well, one just left and we had two. Okay, is that scary? Is that scary? When you're talking about emergency, we got one spine doctor. You know why he left? Because he's worried about his kids' education. So we're about to wake up people and say, stop the charter schools. They can prance in the town. They have an amazing high school. When you make town mail, go over there and see that basis. They welcome the town, pranced around here, made all kinds of money. I don't even know the facts. But I don't like it. I don't like when I drive by there, and now they're getting way more money than my own school right here that has to take care of the whole general population. That's what I don't like. And I know I'm making a lot of people mad out here, but that is the true facts. And if I'm wrong on my facts, sorry. But I know that we get 5,000, we get 7. Is that right? So, no. That's pretty much, sorry people if I insulted you, but we want to raise a generation that cares about people, that loves people. Like, you know what? You know what my kids do when they go into the high school? They look for kids that are hurting. They don't walk into a private little school and go like, oh, you know, I got all my little perfect kids that don't drink or drink. My kids see kids that do drugs. But you know what they do? They don't reach out to them. They try to make a difference in that kid's life. They invite them for dinner. That's what being a community is. 40,000 people live in this tiny little town. Come on, get behind your school. All of you, all of us. It's just embarrassing.
And just before Richard speaks, I'd like to call our next 5 names. I have Maxine Hallington. I have Sandy Jack, Judah Piper, Mitra Kazai, I'm going to guess at that one, sorry about that, Mitra, and then Sonia Tenney.
Good evening, Superintendent, Associate Superintendent, and Representative Campbell. I'm Richard McPherson. I was born in this town 50 years ago. I graduated from this high school in 1983. I graduated from the same high school my mother, father, and two brothers did. I came back in the fall of 1987 and started teaching at this high school. I taught here for 3 years. In the 1989, I left the business of education. Probably the best thing I ever did, because back then I had people that didn't know what was going on in my classroom telling me what should be going on in my classroom. And so I left. And then I came back to teaching. I now teach high school agriculture in Rio Rico, town I love, and sorry I didn't get to speak at Pima Community College when I chased you down there. And then I drove over to Sierra Vista, and I didn't get on the docket there either. So today, while I was completing my 40 hours of professional development at WestMech, recertifying for my welding certificates, because one of the many things that I get to do is maintain all of my credentials so I have some credibility when I'm standing in my classroom. I got to test, and we finished testing at 3:30, so I jumped in my truck and I drove up here to say the things that I wanted to say in Tucson, Sierra Vista, and finally here in my hometown. I still own a house here in Prescott, so I still get to pay that property tax here, and I get to pay that property tax in Pine Top, and I get to pay that property tax in Gilbert, and I feel like I'm not quite getting my money's worth, even though I get a paycheck based off of what should be coming back to my classroom. Several years ago, probably 12 years ago, the residents throughout the state of Arizona went out and they voted to increase their taxes that go to the schools by creating JTEDs. And these are school districts that override and sit over the top of the local school districts. And the success that happens in career and technical education, I'll just tell you a few in case you don't know. Arizona has a high school graduation rate of about 75%. That means 25% don't graduate, so they're not getting what they should be getting. In CTE, 98% of those students graduate, okay? In CTE, we train people for those jobs that don't quite yet exist. Now, in my profession, I teach agriculture, and so 97% of the people, plus or minus 3% for statistical error, like to eat every day. So I'm not ever going to run out of students, or will I run out of consumers? But how we produce that food is what I teach in the classroom, and they're going to be producing it much differently in 10 years than they did 25 years ago or 100 years ago. So things are happening. And so we take this $5,000 plus or minus, and we call that the ADM. Now, during that budget that every Republican voted for and one Democrat, and late Friday night at 2:30 in the morning, when there's only 3 types of people working that night: drug dealers, prostitutes, and politicians.
You're too generous, you're too generous.
What they did was they cut CTE funding by 7.5% out of that ADM. So my classroom, I'm glad I'm not an art teacher, my classroom took a $50,000 hit. Now, that's not really 7.5%, because apparently the politicians have been on this Common Core kick for a long time, and they got extra new math, because 7.5% got taken out of the ADM. And then that legislation, they said, but don't worry, school district, what you can do is you can recapture that 7.5% out of that 25 cents that everybody voted to increase their taxes because CTE wasn't being funded enough. If it was being funded enough, we wouldn't have 225,000 vacancies in welders alone in this country. Okay? So now you take that 16 cents of that quarter that was coming to my classroom, you send 7.5 cents back to the school district. So the new math is really, I took a 50% budget cut. The newspaper said 7.5. That's what everybody heard, 7.5. The second paragraph said, but don't worry, school district, Now you can recoup the funds. And then the third paragraph in that beautiful piece of legislation says, and this is the new baseline. So anytime you want to come back to get your funding back, it will be an increase. We're not recapturing what we lost. We're asking for more money. 2 years ago, you took away funding for freshmen because they don't need college. Career technical education. They're all going to college, except for those 25% that drop out. So let's talk about those 25% of kids that drop out of high school. Kids that drop out of high school don't have many options on where to live, so they're going to stay at home. And they don't have many options on where to work, so they're going to stay at home. And they don't have a school to go to and socialize. So they're going to hang out with other kids that aren't going to school, that live at home. Now, I don't know if you know much about 14, 15, 16-year-old boys and girls, but when they don't have any money, they do the one thing that's entertaining and free. So now we'll have 3 generations living in one of those houses, unemployed and undereducated. So the one thing that worked, you guys put a bullet in the heart of education. For the last 8 years, we have not received 100% of our funding. We do 100% of our job, and you guys make sure of that. Because you tie my bonuses, my 301, my salary, my evaluation on making sure I do 100% of my job, and then you fund me 50%. I watch just enough television to realize that car companies that only pay 75% for damaged cars won't stay in business with those cars that are funded at 100% and rolling down the road at 4 tires. My question to you is, how soon will I see your legislation that will reverse what happened that night in March? Can I count on that? Or is this a ignore tour? Are we listening or are we ignoring?
I'm listening to you. I agree with you. It's important, and I would support that. Next session coming up, I'll do everything I can to get more funding into the JTEDs, because I know how important that program is, and I do support it. And I'm just one voice down there, but I agree with you 100% about what you're talking about.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Superintendent.
Good evening, I'm Maxine Howington. I would like to thank the gentleman who just left, and I totally concur with everything he said. I am a Mount Institute JTED board member representing Seligman, and we just spent from 8 in the morning to 3:30 this afternoon trying to figure out, if this legislation stands, how are we going to support our programs and our students in our member districts. So, sir, I thank you very much. I am here to speak on another subject. A while ago, I read a book, which name I can't remember right now, or the author, but he was speaking about public education. And this author was the CEO of Blue Bunny Ice Cream. And he went on a speaking tour, I don't think he listened very well, about the quality or the lack of quality in public education. And as he was talking, there was a lady in the front row with silver hair who was a 40-year-long English teacher in high school. And she asked him, what did he do about the quality of his product that went into his ice cream? And he said, we only accept the very best quality that goes into Blue Bunny ice cream. And she said, so in your blueberry ice cream, if you received a shipment of damaged blueberries, what would you do with them? And he says, well, ma'am, of course I would send them back. Well, being a 40-year veteran in the public school system, she said to him, sir, we cannot send back our blueberries. We take every blueberry that comes through our door, be them whole, broken, or bruised. There are blueberries, and it's our job to do the very best we can for these children, or blueberries. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm a little conflicted on this. We do have educational entities in our state who have the choice of scrubbing their blueberries before they come through their doors. Also, unfortunately, our blueberries in the public schools are rated, graded, and judged against these other educational entity students. And our blueberries, be they with all their perfections and all their imperfections, against those screened blueberries. And what I am asking is a plan or a study to be developed so the playing field will be leveled, so that all schools, educators, and students adhere to the same policy and institutional standards, and therefore they will be compared between each other equitably. Our blueberries do an outstanding job. I'm also the school nurse at Ashford Schools. I remember when you came in and visited our school, Mr. Campbell, and we appreciate that. And last year, Ashford Schools, with 100% free and reduced lunch rate, with a 25% special ed population, was the #1 performing school in the state of Arizona. Thank you.
Sandy is next.
Good evening. Hello, Diane. Nice to see you again. My name is Sandy Jack. I'm a recent transplant from California to Prescott, Arizona. I was on my way to Texas, but I had to stop back here one more time, and I decided to stay. I was a very frustrated parent in California, and I spent a lot of time during my years there trying to make a difference. I think back of my life and the period that I grew up, we're the greatest country in the world. And we stood for all of the things that are good. Yeah, we had our share of problems, but nevertheless, there wasn't anybody that we couldn't compete against. That's not true today, not in the students that I'm seeing coming out of our educational system. And my background in that, just to give you an idea, I was a member of the Optimist Club, and I worked with kids and trying to help kids get ahead and do the things that they were capable of doing, and in many cases, something that they weren't capable of doing. We're killing the competitive drive through our political correctness in our system. And we will never attain that greatness again unless we find some way to reignite the competitive desire of our students. Not everybody is, I'm sorry, but a newsflash, not everybody has the same capabilities, abilities, or even desire to exceed in the same way. So we have to, just looking back in history, which most schools have stopped teaching, you need to understand where we've been in order to figure out how to continue to get there. We need a tougher grading system. I came up through the A through F program, and I wasn't always an A, and I wasn't always an F, and I spent 32 years and made a nice living, and I've been trying to get back to the communities that I reside in. I've been 17 years in and out of local politics, so I have some idea, and I don't like politics. And I think we need to get it out of our school system as much as we can. We need to stand up and resist the federal government. I've been on planning commissions, and they throw government money at you, and you grab the money, but you never bother reading it. Just like the people in Washington right now don't even read the bills before they vote on it. And we've got to stop doing that. We need to change the concept of tenure. It's an old concept. It needs to be redone. Same as with our unions. The federal and even the state grants become handcuffs on the entities that take those grants because you have to live by the dictates of those grants. So let the buyer beware. Let the teachers teach, for crying out loud. They really need the support, and frankly, the parents need to get their act together and start paying a little more attention and going to board meetings and making sure that things are happening in the schools. I know all through my education, my kids' educations, my wife or I were in those classrooms. We went to the board meetings, we were involved, and that's what it's going to take. If the parents want their kids to succeed in the way that we're used to seeing them succeed. We are the victims of bureaucracy and politics. And we need to take control of Arizona education. Get the feds out of our business, and hopefully we can do something at a higher level to do with that. And I'd like to see, one of my pet peeves over the years is what happened to vocational training. Not everybody is cut out to go to college. I'm sorry. One of my kids, and I had four brothers, so not my kids, but my brothers. And not everybody wanted to go to college, and there's one of them in particular just wasn't cut out for it. He was a hands-on guy and wanted to do things. We need to provide opportunities for those kids that don't want to go on, don't see initially the benefit of going on to college. We need to give them another opportunity, another avenue to earn a living. And I think that's about, and let's get rid of Common Core, or make it an Arizona Common Core that really teaches to the kids. Take that new math and stuff it.
Good evening. Thanks for having us and listening to what we have to say. I think there are a lot of people who come here tonight, educators I've heard speak, and people who are experts in the educational field. I'm not an expert in the educational field. I'm a community member who grew up in town here. This is my hometown. They're having a little trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry.
Mr. McPherson here, who just spoke a couple of times ago, I think I was a student in his class, so I think I'm a result of some of his teaching strategy. Went to college, went to medical school, got an orthopedic surgery residency, and decided that I wanted to come back and be an orthopedic surgeon in my hometown. So I have a lot of pride in the school system that had set me on my way towards what I consider to be a successful career in education. I have 2 children now. I'm raising my children in town, and I think that I want my children to be able to go through a successful educational system, the same that I found to be successful for me. I don't have any answers. I think there are a lot of people here who have answers. I don't have answers. I just want to lend my concerns. What I'm seeing with my friends in town here, we have teachers who come in that needed in the community, and they just get out of medical or out of college. They come to Prescott because they need a first grade or a first teaching job. Every one of them I know are out the door in 2 years because I don't know why. They tell me it's because that they can get paid better somewhere else. I think that's a problem. It would be nice to be able to maintain good teachers in the town where I want to send my children to have good education. I see students leaving from the educational system. So I think seeing teachers leaving and students leaving. I think you're probably going everywhere around the state and everybody says the money is the solution. I don't know what the solution is. I think you guys, that's your job is to find the solution. But the problems I'm seeing is, at least in this community, and it's certainly every community has its own problems, are teachers leaving and students leaving. I'd like to keep my children in this educational system. My number one goal, though, is not the educational system. It's my children, and it's that my children receive high quality education. I think that's possible, but what I see at this point, there is still a great educational system in Prescott. I'd like to keep that, and I'd like to be able to have pride in sending my children there. But I think the problems I'm seeing is teachers are leaving and students are leaving. What I'd like to see is retention of the teachers and retention in the students to maintain the high quality education in academics, athletics, and extracurricular activities. Education isn't just for the students about learning math and reading. Education is about the academics. It's about the athletics. You all know that students learn better when they're healthy, when they're exercising. So their academics improve when their athletics improve. Extracurriculars. I was in my first play in this playhouse, right? Being in a play doesn't have to have anything to do with being an orthopedic surgeon, but being well-rounded, being able to send my students to a educational system that is a well-rounded educational system is important to me. Like I said, I don't have answers, but I have pride in my hometown. I have pride in the hometown educational system that's put me through where I am to the point where I can come back and be in my community, support my community, and send my children to the same system. So what I'd like to see, once again, I don't think I need to say it again multiple times, but this, if you could work on teacher retention in this town by equalizing pay, not giving them a reason to go to Phoenix. It's an hour and a half away, but you get paid however much more, I don't know how much more, and keeping the students in the system so that we have a well-rounded system. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. All right, Mitra, I believe, is next.
You were very brave to try or attempt to pronounce my last name. Not everybody tries, so thank you. My name is Mitra Kazi, and I'm here this evening. I actually am a governing board member for the Madison Elementary School District in Phoenix, but I'm here visiting my parents who live in Prescott, and I was unable to attend any of the forums in Metro Phoenix, so thank you. I'm a parent of 3 boys, ages 10 to 14. I'm also a taxpayer who previously worked at the Department of Commerce, the Arizona Department of Commerce and Business Development, and helped recruit companies and helped companies expand in the state of Arizona, and heard their challenges when they considered Arizona as a state because they were going to be moving their people, and their people had concerns about providing the best educational opportunities for their employees' children. And as I mentioned, I'm also a governing board member. I also wanted to thank you for this opportunity to provide this forum, the forums across the state. I don't know when we've had the opportunity in the state of Arizona to provide the general public an opportunity to just talk about issues that are related to education that are important to them. And I listened to the Kingman broadcast, and it was just really heartening to see that there are concerns across the state. And I think it provides an opportunity for people to learn and become hopefully more engaged. So I'm hoping that this process continues and we see more engagement. I mean, I love hearing retirees talking about interest in participating in their local school district. At the Madison School District, we have a touring program called Oasis, and we do try to recruit volunteers. Mainly they're retirees, mostly they're retired teachers, because it seems like once you retire, you can't ever really leave the profession. And I just think that when we provide these opportunities to learn about where people are needed, we're going to see good results. So again, really thank you for that. I think that's very helpful. I have a really unique perspective as a parent because, as I mentioned, I'm the mother of 3 children, and my youngest was the first cohort of children that started learning through the Common Core standards. So he kind of is my, if I'm looking at an experimental situation, I've been always very interested in what he has accomplished at every grade level versus his brothers. And all my kids, like all parents believe, are relatively bright children with differing strengths, but generally good academic achievers. And what I've seen with my youngest son, Bryce, through the curriculum was developed to implement the Common Core standards, and now entering his 4th grade year, is that he is a more coherent, thoughtful writer. He is an incredible researcher. It's in some ways better than my 6th going into 7th grader because of the Common Core emphasis on nonfiction text. And his math skills are also stronger. So I've seen with the implementation of the Common Core standards some really specific improvement in my child's academic achievement. And I see that continuing as he moves forward. I have a son who will be starting geometry his freshman year. And algebra was a real challenge for him in 8th grade. And I feel that as I see the foundations being laid for Bryce in the younger years, I feel like he's going to be better prepared for algebra. And that's kind of a really important class to help prepare you for higher level math. And math is the new gatekeeper for college. It really is. If you want to get into a college and you want to be an engineer or a program that requires higher level calculus, statistics level math, it is really important that you have a really strong grounding in math. And as a parent, I had challenges because my children learned math in a way that was different than I did. But I see that their understanding of math is definitely more deep than what I experienced. And when I took statistics in college, I was not as prepared as I think my children will be if they should take statistics in high school or later on in college. And so I've had to grapple around the fact that sometimes I can't help my kids with math because I don't fully understand the way they're being taught, but my teachers have provided instruction in the classroom. I hope that's something that maybe teachers will be able to provide to parents who are frustrated because they can't help their kids necessarily because the way their kids are learning is a little different. But I think we need to talk about that as opposed to just saying this math doesn't work, to better understand why are we teaching in a different way? What are the benefits? Are we seeing those benefits? And I know when parents have been in the classroom and have learned from their children's teacher why this is happening and how this works and how they can help their kids, they tend to come around and really understand. And so I think just any time that you can provide those educational opportunities to parents about these issues, I think it's very valuable. Another thing that I wanted to mention is not only have I seen improvements in academic achievement in my own child because of the fact that he's been taught using curriculum based on the Common Core standards, but I've also seen as a governing board member. The Madison Elementary School District is one of the top performing elementary school districts in Phoenix. It does have a very diverse population. I think there's a perception that we're a terribly affluent community. We are not. And in the data, I have definitely seen improvement, especially when you look at that cohort of children that started Common Core in their kindergarten age. The other thing that we've seen as kids have come into our system is that the portability factor of Common Core kids coming from other states, maybe because their parents were in the military or because they've been transferred. Arizona, as we all know, is a state that has a lot of transit. People are moving in and out all the time. Their kids are entering our school system with the skill sets that prepare them to be successful in our classrooms because they were instructed using similar standards in the states generally where they came from. And that has been a real benefit to our teachers and to those children, obviously, in their academic achievement. And the other thing that as a parent that I think is very important with Common Core is that I'm very looking forward to seeing how, as our test results start to come out in November and then looking down the road, how we compare to other states. Because at the end of the day, my kids, when they apply to college, will be competing with those other kids in those other states. And I want to know, looking at that data, are my kids going to be prepared to compete with them for those slots in college where they want to go? So I definitely feel like having that information that's going to be very beneficial to me as a parent and beneficial to my children as well to be prepared as they apply to colleges looking forward. So I just want to in summary say that our teachers and I know our students have worked so hard during these last few years in getting up to speed during the implementation of Common Core. And I really encourage you to, and I know you're doing that through these tours and obviously every day on your job, but to seriously consider the work that has been done to date and not move us backwards, because so much time and effort has been put in. And I really feel that the time and effort has been well spent, that we are seeing the academic achievement gains that we need in our students. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, and just before Sonia speaks, I wanted to read out our next 5 names and let everyone know that I have 9 cards here. We've had some cards come in late. We've got about half an hour left in our scheduled time. We may be able to push a little beyond that. I know we did have to we did want to move the start time back so that folks could get here. But just to give you an idea, so we're looking at about 10 speakers, and we'll try to wrap everything up by 8 at the latest, just to give everyone a sense for the timing. So our next 5 are going to be, I have Rita Carol Cordero, Marin Bosley, Bill Warren, Donna Kessler, and Craig, I'm not exactly sure what the last name is, Arps or Ars, something like that. And Sonia, go ahead.
My name is Sonia Tenney, and I'm a mother of 5 children who have either completed or are in public schools here in Prescott. I grew up here in Prescott. It was a great place to grow up. We have a great community here. We have great families, we have great churches, we have great values, great things are going on here. And I feel like our schools are great. I don't feel like our schools are failing. I think they're doing a great job. I think they're taking everybody who comes in and they're doing their best to make them better and to teach them. And I think that's a real positive thing, and it's easy to get negative, and I don't think that we need to be negative. Our schools are great. But we're starting to deal with some big disadvantages, and we need to address those advantages. I don't think that the problem is the federal government, and I don't think the problems are our schools. I think we need more funding. We desperately need more funding. In our in this Prescott School District, in the last 5 years or so, we have lost more than 60% of our teachers, as other people have expressed. Teachers come here, they come here from all over the country, they're excited to be here, it's a beautiful place, and then they find that they cannot live here because of what they're paid, and they go to Colorado, or they go to Phoenix. Anywhere else, they get paid more. Our custodians get paid less than anybody else. Our custodians leave and go work for the city. They go work for Yavapai College. They go work for the hospital because they can make more. We just don't pay them enough. We need more funding. The other thing another point that I feel like is a disadvantage for our public schools is our emphasis in Arizona on charter schools. I know that charter schools bring competition, and that is a good thing. But the disadvantage is that we don't have equal funding with charter schools and public schools. I think that if you plot it out, eventually charter schools are going to hurt public schools. The children that are good students leave to go to charter schools, and the public schools take everybody. And eventually, if more and more good children leave and strong academics children leave, then you've just got, the pool just gets more and more full of children with special needs and children with disadvantages that are also valuable. And if we continue to place a value on charter schools, we are going to hurt our public schools. We need to value educating everyone. The final point that I want to make is that I am a supporter of Common Core, the Arizona Career and College Readiness Standards. A lot of people, there's a lot of myths out there. A lot of people talk about how this has been imposed on us. I don't believe that that is the case. I believe that they're a good idea. They're going to help us compete within our country. They're going to help us compete within the world. And the woman who spoke before me expressed much better than I can the values of Common Core. I think we should give it a chance. I think we should try it out. It's not going to be smooth sailing. There are going to be some bumps. I know it's difficult for people to learn how to do things new ways, but I think the concept is a good one, and I think we were wise to adopt them, and I think we should keep going and keep trying those standards. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Rita?
Hi, my name is Rita Carol Cordero. Thank you for coming here tonight. I am a retired high school teacher of English and English as a second language. I'm a retired school psychologist. I raised 2 biological children who were gifted and are college graduates. I am now the adoptive mother of an 8-year-old. She'll be 9 tomorrow. She has autism and she's hyperactive. She's also brilliant. She's more brilliant than either of my 2 gifted biological children, and she is flailing with Common Core. She has a meltdown every day during math. She was doing fine 2nd grade, and I didn't worry about it. She was getting her homework done at school with her one-to-one aide. This year, however, her grades started going down. Behavior started going down. I said, send the homework home. I want to see what's going on. And I couldn't help her with the math homework. And I can tell you that the language arts homework was ridiculous. It was ambiguous. There were no clear answers, and they expected the kids to have clear answers to them. The math, they have many reasoning steps that assume that children have cognitive development that they don't have yet. As a school psychologist, I can tell you that they're expecting kids to have the cognitive development that probably doesn't come until at least age 14, and for many kids, and maybe not till 21 or 30 for others. And it's not working for all kids. It may be working for some very advanced kids. It's not. I took the sample test for the Arizona Merit for the math. Well, I can't say I took it. I couldn't solve a single problem. I got A's in college, I got A's in statistics, I did my own statistical analysis for my master's degree, and I could not do even one of those problems. I think anybody who supports Common Core needs to take the test online. And I can tell you that those parents can do that and let us opt out. And they will be opting out. This year I told my daughter, I tried to give her some testing skills. So I said, look at the problem, and if you can solve it, select the correct answer. If you can't, then guess what she did. She threw herself down on the floor and cried. And I can tell you, this child was brilliant. But after 3rd grade Common Core, she thinks she's stupid. And it breaks my heart. And it's not because she has autism, it's because the material is completely inappropriate. Not only for her, but for most kids. And I know that as a teacher. And I also got to tell you that the empire has no clothes. And Common Core doesn't work. And you cannot expect all kids to reach the same standard, because they're not going to, they'll never be able to going to. You have to allow teachers to meet the child where that child is and bring that child along. You can't expect them to teach where they're at.
Good evening. I feel in a way that I'm entering the lion's den because I'm a mother of 5 children, ages 2 through 13, and they go to one of the devil schools, apparently, a charter school. But let me give you a little bit of background of my experience, what brought us to this point, and some of the thoughts that I have. I've only lived here 2 years. I grew up in Southern California.
Can we get your name?
Oh, Marin Bosley, sorry. Went to a very good university back in Boston and received my teaching credential to teach high school mathematics. I returned to California and taught 2 years there, where I refused to join the teachers union, even though they still took money out of my paycheck because